Introduction. The silent pain of living without purpose. What if I told you the most dangerous pain isn't loud, it's quiet? It doesn't scream. It lingers. It whispers through your routines, your mornings, your late nights staring at the ceiling. It's the feeling of being busy but not fulfilled. Of moving constantly but getting nowhere. You wake up, complete tasks, respond to messages, but deep down you feel like something's missing. It's not depression. It's not failure. It's directionlessness. And it slowly eats away at your motivation. This kind of pain is invisible on the outside but loud in the mind. It shows up when you achieve something and feel nothing. When you're surrounded by people, but feel deeply alone. When you check every box, but wonder why it still doesn't feel like progress. That's the pain of not knowing where you're going. Of having no internal compass. And when you don't have a clear why, even your wins start to feel like losses. Let's be honest, no one teaches us how to define purpose. We're taught how to meet deadlines, how to chase degrees, how to look successful. But no one teaches us how to look inward. No one tells us that a day full of tasks can still feel empty. Purpose isn't about being productive. It's about feeling alive while you're doing it. And without it, life becomes mechanical, automatic, shallow. That's not living. That's just existing on autopilot. But what if you could break that cycle? What if you could stop moving without meaning and start building a life with deep inner clarity? This isn't about dropping everything and becoming a monk. It's about asking better questions. It's about refusing to waste another year chasing goals that don't belong to you. And that's what we're here to do. This video isn't just information, it's a mirror. And once you see yourself clearly, you'll never unsee it. Because here's the truth, you were never meant to drift. You were meant to lead. But you can't lead if you don't know where you're going. And if any part of this feels like your life, confusing, scattered, unaligned, then stay close. Because we're going to build something together, not just focus but freedom. And it starts by understanding the real enemy, being busy without direction. The confusion between being busy and having direction. We've been programmed to believe that a full schedule means a meaningful life. But let me ask you something, how many of your daily tasks actually matter to your soul? We answer emails, attend meetings, post updates, rush from one obligation to another. But when the day ends, what did you really build? Did it get you closer to who you want to become, or just keep you running in place? That's the trap. Being busy feels productive, but it's often just emotional noise. People confuse motion with progress. But activity isn't accomplishment. You can be on a treadmill for hours, moving, sweating, working, and still end up in the same place. That's how most people live. They solve problems that aren't theirs. They chase goals they never chose. They say yes to things they resent later. What? Because they never stop to ask, is this even my path? And when you don't question the direction, busyness becomes a distraction from your truth. Let me make this plain. Productivity without purpose is just faster burnout. We glorify exhaustion like it's a badge of honor. But you weren't born to be efficient, you were born to be aligned. And that only happens when your actions point to something bigger than survival. Otherwise, you're just reacting to life instead of designing it. You're not building a future, you're managing a schedule. And deep down, that's why it still feels hollow no matter how full your calendar looks. So how do you shift from chaos to clarity? You start by filtering your actions through one question. Does this connect to my deepest values? Not to what others expect, not to what's trending, but to what truly lights you up. Because if you don't choose your direction, someone else will choose it for you. And you'll end up living a life that looks good on the outside, but feels wrong on the inside. That misalignment becomes emotional quicksand. Here's what most people miss. The cost of distraction is direction. And every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve your path, you say no to the life you were meant to build. The goal isn't to do more, it's to do what matters. That's how you stop living in reaction mode and start living with design. But before you can build that design, you have to see the silent disease that's holding you back, the invisible nature of purposelessness. The scariest part about lacking purpose is that you don't notice it at first. It's not dramatic like a crisis. It's subtle, quiet, almost polite. It slips into your routines and makes itself at home. You keep showing up. You keep producing. You keep smiling. But slowly the spark disappears. You're not miserable, you're just numb. And that numbness feels safer than asking the deeper questions you've been avoiding. You wake up, go through the motions, meet your deadlines. But underneath all that order is a growing fog. You feel disconnected from your own decisions. You scroll your phone for hours to avoid silence, because silence starts to reveal the truth. You don't really know what you're building. And that realization is terrifying. So you stay busy to escape the discomfort. But the discomfort grows stronger each day you ignore it. This is how people lose themselves without realizing it. Not through failure, but through constant distraction. They trade meaning for momentum. They stay in jobs that drain them, relationships that dull them, habits that shrink them, and the world claps because they look successful. But deep down they're quietly suffocating. They laugh on the outside but cry in quiet moments. And when they're finally alone, the silence is deafening. See, purposelessness doesn't knock you out, it wears you down. One compromise at a time. One delayed decision. One more week doing just okay. And soon you don't even recognize who you've become. You start accepting less because you've forgotten what more feels like. And this is where many people stay for life, functioning but flatlined. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because the antidote to all of this isn't perfection. It's clarity. That's why you need to hear this. You don't find purpose, you define it. Purpose isn't some magical calling that drops into your lap. It's a direction you choose, a commitment you make, a signal you send to the world that says, I'm done drifting. And the moment you choose to start building that direction, everything changes. So let's break the myth right now. Purpose isn't a destination. It's a compass. And that's exactly what we'll build next. Purpose is not a destination, it's a direction. Most people treat purpose like it's a buried treasure, something they have to search for their entire lives. They wait for a divine moment, a sign from the universe, or a perfect opportunity to finally find it. But here's the truth, purpose isn't found, it's built. It's not a finish line you cross. It's a direction you choose and walk toward day by day. And clarity doesn't arrive before the journey, it emerges through it. Purpose doesn't come to the passive. It rewards the intentional. When you realize purpose is a compass, not a GPS, everything shifts. You stop obsessing over the exact path and start focusing on alignment. You begin to ask new questions. Does this move me closer to the life I want? And suddenly, distractions start to lose their grip. You stop chasing everything that glitters and start protecting the one thing that matters: direction. Because once your soul has a North Star, saying no becomes easier. You're no longer trying to go everywhere. Think about it like this: your life is a map. Every yes is a step and every no is a boundary. Without a compass, you end up walking in circles, confusing motion for meaning. But with purpose as your filter, decisions get lighter. You don't have to overthink. You just ask, does this serve the path I've chosen? That kind of clarity isn't just powerful, it's liberating. It cuts through the noise, it simplifies your days, and it returns your energy to what truly matters. And here's where most people get stuck. They believe they need a perfect plan. They don't. They need a first step. They need to take action, reflect, adjust, and keep walking. That's how real focus is born, by experimenting with intention. You try, you fail, you learn. But every attempt teaches you something new about what feels aligned. And eventually, your purpose stops being a question and starts becoming your identity. So don't wait for lightning to strike. Choose your direction now. And remember, you don't have to be 100% sure, you just have to be 1% braver. Because once you start walking towards something meaningful, even small steps become sacred. That's when life regains its color, its weight, and its meaning. And in the next section, we'll dive into the practical side, how to actually build unshakable focus in a chaotic world. How to build focus in the middle of chaos. Focus isn't a gift you're born with, it's a habit you build. And it starts with one word: awareness. Most people try to force discipline without understanding what truly drains them. That's like trying to run faster with rocks in your shoes. You need to stop and look inside. Ask, what am I doing out of obligation? What feels heavy even when I'm well rested? These aren't small questions, they're doorways to clarity. Because without self-awareness, your goals will always feel vague and fragile. The first step to building real focus is creating space for silence. You can't find direction in a storm of notifications and noise. You need moments where you can hear yourself think. That means stepping away from the scroll, the chatter, the constant stimulation. Sit down. Write. Question everything. Why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? What do I actually want? These reflections aren't luxuries. They're necessary tools for recalibration. Without them, you're just surviving. Once you've created that space, look for patterns. What activities light you up effortlessly? What drains you even when they seem productive? Focus isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things with energy. That means filtering your habits, routines, and even relationships through your deeper priorities. Start organizing your life around what brings meaning, not just momentum. Because when your routine reflects your values, distractions lose their power. But here's the hard truth. To stay focused, you'll need to let go of things that look good but aren't aligned. That takes courage. You'll have to say no to opportunities, invitations, and even certain relationships. Not because you're selfish, but because you've chosen clarity. That's what real focus is, the courage to close doors that don't lead to your future. And every time you say no to noise, you say yes to purpose. That's not rejection. That's alignment. So don't wait for perfect conditions to begin. Focus is born in the chaos, not after it. Build rituals that anchor you. Protect your mornings. Guard your evenings. Make space for stillness and planning. And remember, focus is a decision you make daily, not once. You don't rise above chaos by escaping it. You rise by creating inner order and sticking to it. And now that you know how to build focus, let's talk about the one thing that keeps it alive: mental training and discipline. The role of mental training and discipline. Let's get something straight. Focus without discipline is a mood, and moods are unreliable. If you only show up when you feel like it, you'll never build anything that lasts. That's why mental training isn't a side note, it's the backbone. A scattered mind will always chase dopamine, comfort, escape, distraction. But a trained mind learns to stay with the discomfort. It learns to sit in silence, say no to shortcuts, and keep showing up, even when it's not convenient. Discipline isn't about being harsh. It's about being loyal to your future self. Every time you resist distraction, you send a message: I'm not here to please my feelings. I'm here to honor my vision. That's how identity shifts. You stop being someone who reacts and you become someone who commits. And that commitment builds inner strength. Not loud, not dramatic, but quiet, stable, and consistent. The kind of strength that builds empires from the inside out. So how do you train that mental muscle? You build an environment that works for you, not against you. Remove what drains your attention. Turn your phone off for an hour. Write your top 3 priorities before the day starts. Track your consistency, not your perfection. And celebrate the reps, not just the wins. Because every day you stay focused, even a little, you're rewiring your brain to follow through. That's what mental discipline really is: emotional repetition. And yes, it will be boring sometimes. That's the test. When the motivation fades and no one is watching, will you still protect your focus? The undisciplined mind craves stimulation. The disciplined mind craves alignment. One pulls you in every direction. The other pulls you home. And the longer you train your brain to delay gratification, the easier it becomes to stay centered, even in the face of stress, pressure, or doubt. Here's the beauty of it. Over time, your discipline becomes invisible. People will ask how you stay calm, how you stay sharp. And the truth will be this: you stopped living by impulse. You started living by intention. And that quiet transformation leads to something no one can take from you: freedom. So let's wrap this up with the final reward. The kind of freedom that only comes when you live with real focus. The freedom that only focus can bring. Here's the paradox most people never realize. The more you try to do everything, be everything, chase everything, the more trapped you become. You become a prisoner of options, constantly reacting, constantly adjusting, constantly doubting. But when you choose focus, you choose freedom. Because now your path is clear. Now your mind is clean. You no longer live in constant tension. You live in direction. And that direction brings peace. With focus, you stop asking, "Am I doing enough?" and start asking, "Is this aligned?" That one shift rewrites your life. You stop seeking approval from everyone because you've already approved your purpose. You stop comparing your pace to others because you know your race is different. And suddenly the need to rush fades. The fear of missing out disappears. Because you're no longer chasing, you're becoming. And becoming is slower, deeper, more meaningful. When you live with purpose, even your setbacks feel sacred. Even your delays feel divine. You don't need everything to go your way because you trust where you're headed. You build confidence not by avoiding chaos, but by staying centered through it. That's the freedom few people ever taste. The freedom to stay calm while others panic. The freedom to stay silent when others seek attention. The freedom to move slower and still feel strong. And here's the most powerful part. Focus frees you to be yourself. Not the version of you that pleases everyone, Not the version shaped by pressure, but the real you, the one with conviction, direction, and courage. Focus silences the noise long enough for you to hear your own voice again. And when you start living from that voice, you become unstoppable. Because nothing moves faster than a soul with clarity. So here's your challenge: don't just listen, decide. Decide to build focus. Decide to protect your energy. Decide to live with direction. Because once you taste the freedom of living on purpose, you'll never want to go back to the noise. And the world won't change overnight, but you will. And when you do, everything else follows. Practical ways to build unbreakable focus. Before we close, let me leave you with something crystal clear. Focus isn't magic. It's structure. It's system. It's a set of choices you repeat until they become who you are. So here are a few of the most powerful ways to build that kind of focus, starting today. 1. Create a morning anchor. Start your day with intention, not reaction. No phone. No emails. Just 10 to 15 minutes of clarity, journaling, prayer, meditation, or simply asking, what matters today? That moment sets your emotional GPS. 2. Write down your top 3 priorities daily. Don't just keep them in your head. Put them on paper. When everything feels urgent, your list reminds you of what's actually important. If it's not on the list, it waits. Period. 3. Design an environment that serves you. Your surroundings shape your behavior. Turn off notifications. Clean your workspace. Limit visual and digital clutter. Your brain can't focus in chaos. Train it by removing temptation. 4. Practice the power of no. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you say no to your purpose. Learn to say no without guilt. Not every opportunity is aligned. Not every invitation deserves your time. 5. Rewire with repetition. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. The more you follow through, the stronger your self-trust becomes. Focus grows through consistency, not intensity. And above all, remember your why. Write it, speak it, protect it. Because when you forget your why, you lose your way. But when your why is clear, focus becomes effortless.